All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to one more live streaming here on our channel. And I promise you, today it's going to be amazing, especially if you want to learn MultiCloud DevOps and be among the best in highest page. This skill set I'm going to teach you today is going to be a game changer for you, right? But before we get started, please let me know where you're connected from right now on the chat. And if you're new to our channel, I would like to ask you to go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Just click on subscribe, and please also give us a thumbs up. Click on the like button. And the reason that I'm asking you this is when you click on the like button, the YouTube can show this video to more people and more people can learn, right? Can we do that? So with that, guys, I just wanted to introduce myself for those that don't know me yet. My name is John Rodriguez, and I'm working here at the Cloud Bootcamp, helping IT professionals to be among the best and highest paid by mastering the multi-cloud and DevOps skills. And before working here, I used to work for Oracle Corporation here in the US as a senior principal cloud architect. And as part of this role, I had the pleasure to leading the American Airlines infrastructure migration from on-premises to the cloud. So with that, we wanted to get started, and I promise that this content is going to be amazing. I'm going to share with you my method of troubleshooting. It's going to be awesome. But before doing this, before I forget, I just wanted to invite you for something. Just wanted to invite you for the intensive cloud training, a 100% free training that's going to happen in the next few days. And if you want to learn more about multi-cloud and DevOps, fully hands-on by implementing a hands-on project based on a real-world scenario, I wanted to invite you to this training because that's going to be really, really amazing, okay? Go ahead and scan this QR code. And also, if you want to click on the link that is on the description of this video, it's going to work as well. And, I promise that this training can change your career and even your life, as I've seen that happening with thousands of people that participating on this training before. Okay, so you are my guest. So let's get started now with the content, and I'm gonna share my screen so that we can get down to the business. Are you guys excited to be here today? If you are, please leave a thumbs up on this video so that I can see that you are excited. All right, so let me share my screen. All right, cool, guys. So as I told you, today we are going to discuss, and I'm gonna actually, teach you one of the most important skill set if you want to work in the multi-cloud and DevOps industry and be among the best in high speed. Okay, this is one of the top 3 skill sets that I consider that you should develop if you really want to be, among the top IT professionals in this industry. Okay, so one thing that I wanted to mention before we get started is the reason that I decided to create this content for you is, because after working for many big tech companies here in the US and also in Brazil, because I'm originally from Brazil, I've been living here in the US for 6 years or so, because I'm moving here to work for Oracle. But one thing that I've seen a lot when I use it to work for big tech companies, and even today, is the lack of troubleshooting skills in IT professionals, right? And then usually that happens because the IT professionals really don't have enough self-confidence when it comes to their technical skills. They think that they don't know enough, they are not able to solve problems. And then what happens with that is, usually when you're not able to solve problems, whenever your manager, your company gives them to you for you to fix them, what happens usually is your manager, your company starts losing confidence on you, right? Because you're not able to solve problems. And today my mission here is to show you a method for you to start, fixing any problem that come out of your way. Okay, that's my promise to you today. And before we go to the technical part, it's going to be, fully hands-on. I just wanted to cover some basic things here with you. Okay, can we do that? Let me know on the chat if we can do that. And by the way, if you have any questions, you can ask on the chat. My team is going to be in there. You can ask, and then they're going to answer you. Okay, but basically, what is troubleshooting? Okay, so if you're new to that, maybe you have a misconception about troubleshooting, and I wanted to make sure that you understand that properly. Okay, basically, troubleshooting is someone that solves serious problems for a company or organization. Okay, and one thing that I wanted to come up with in here is troubleshooting just recreating stuff, right? Is it really just go there and you see a problem, maybe you're working in a cloud deployment or project, and you see an issue, and then you think, hey, I think there is an issue in here. It is just a matter of recreating, okay? And sometimes recreating resources and all of that can work if you made some mistake, like in the configuration, things like that. But usually, when it comes to complex problems, recreating stuff usually, just doesn't work, right? Because you need to do something else. You need to figure out what's going on in order for you to fix the problem. And another thing that I wanted to mention here is the IT professionals that are highly paid and considered the best are problem solvers. I want you to, write down this or, put on your notes, whatever it is, because if you want to really be highly paid and you want to have, visibility and high recognition on your company, you need to solve problems. You need to be a role model in problem solving within your area, because that's gonna, help you to excel yourself. And usually your management and your company will recognize that, okay? On the other hand, if you do not solve complex problems, you will not have longevity in a given position or role, right? Basically means that you might land a role, but when you start getting the problems and you don't solve them, it's highly likely that your company is not going to keep you for a long time, okay? Just keep that in mind. And the other thing is, if you are not able to solve complex problems in the multi-cloud and DevOps space, you will never be highly paid in this industry, because, multi-cloud and DevOps is awesome, but it's also about, problem solving. You need to be able to solve problems. And then I'm telling you this because that happened with myself, right? I just brought a quick screenshot from my LinkedIn profile so that I can, share something with you just to inspire you to see that it is really worth being a good problem solver. So if you're looking here in 2019, I actually got promoted from principal to senior principal at Oracle. And one of the biggest reasons, I think that was the major reason that I got this promotion was because I was able to solve many problems for Oracle customers. And then when I solved those problems, what happened, the Oracle customers started recognizing me to my organization, to my senior management. And then my senior management started sawing it, and it ended up in a promotion. And that can happen with you as well. If you is really willing to learn this thing and become a good problem solver, I'm sure that you are going to grow a lot on your career. All right. So now let's go to a more practical stuff. Okay. We're still going to go to the hands-on. I'm going to go to the console and show you step by step how you solve a problem on Kubernetes, for example. But before doing this, I wanted to show you my methodology for solving problems. Okay, the same methodology that I use to solve hundreds of problems. Both working for Oracle, for IBM, and other big companies and projects that you are able to learn now as well. okay? And then I call this troubleshooting method the onion method, okay? If you are taking notes, make sure that you take notes, okay? That you write this down. The onion method. Why onion method? Because I really consider that troubleshooting needs to be done in layers, okay? And then you're going to understand that in a minute. But keep that in mind. If you want to do troubleshooting in an effective and quicker way, you need to do it in layers. Otherwise, you're gonna be walking in circles, okay? And then I consider that you should do troubleshooting using 4 different layers, okay? The first layer is you need to understand the problem in a high level, okay? You need to understand when the problems come to you, you need to understand in a high level, and you need to ask questions to make sure that you understood the problem. Because, you know, when I was working in projects and all of that, and looking at my peers, sometimes I realized that they were not able to understand the problem in a high level. And then this might, sound silly, but this is actually the most important step in a troubleshooting exercise. Because think about that. If you don't understand the problem in a high-level way, really properly, what's going to happen next is all your investigation and troubleshooting is going to be taken in a wrong direction. Do you guys agree with me? If you agree with me on that, give me a like on this video, okay? So that I can see. Everything's gonna go to the wrong direction. And then what's gonna happen next is, because you're going to the wrong direction, the resolution time is gonna be longer. And the resolution time being longer, it basically means that maybe the business is down and it's losing money. And the longer it takes, the more money, the more is going to be the money that the business is going to lose. So you need to really understand that everything in here is related to the business at the end of the day, right? And then you want to fix a problem quickly. And so number one is, the first layer is understand the problem. And there are a few questions that you need to ask to understand the problem, right? In this, when it comes to step number one thing that cannot happen is you feel that it is silly to ask questions, okay? Asking questions is the best way for you to make sure that you are on the right direction, okay? Once you understand the problem in a high level, number two is you need to isolate the problem, okay? And then we're going to do this step by step, hands-on here, so that you can understand. But isolating the problem is important. Then there are some key questions that I'm going to show you that you should ask to help you to isolate the questions, to isolate the problem, okay? And number three here is, once you isolate the problem, meaning you know in which area the problem is located right now, like is it on the database, is it on the network, is it on the cluster, things like that. Once you isolate that, then you're going to narrow down to make sure that you are getting closer to the resolution, right? And then there are also some key questions that you should ask when you are narrowing down a problem. And then finally, when you follow the steps 1, 2, 3, you are able to fix a problem. That is absolutely no way that you cannot fix a problem, because you're going to be doing this approach in a layered way, in a way that makes you to get closer to the resolution and not the other way around. So, as I told you, there are some key questions that you can ask to help you to isolate the problem, okay? You should start asking questions to understand where the problem is located. So maybe, is it the problem located in the communication layer? Is it a communication problem, right? Is it a network communication problem? And then, you're going to start looking around in the scenario, in the problem, and seeing, hey, could that be a networking problem? Or maybe, is it a cluster level problem? Okay. And then here we're using the example of Kubernetes, but it could be applicable for anything else. But is it a cluster level problem? You should ask yourself this question. Is it a host level problem? Maybe it is not a problem inside of the software layer, but maybe it is a host level problem that is causing the issue. Or is it a database problem? Maybe the problem that you're seeing is in a database. So you should ask, hey, does the symptom look like it is a database problem? Or maybe, is it a configuration problem? Is the problem in the configuration layer, meaning on the parameters that you give when you're configuring the environment or the application? Is it the application problem? And, there are many other questions that you should ask that's going to help you to isolate the problem. And then I promise that's going to be more clear when we go to the console, okay? But there are also some other questions that you should ask yourself when you isolate the problem, okay? So now, let's say that after isolating the problem, you figured that the problem is actually on the database layer, okay? So you ask yourself, is it a database problem? And then you saw some evidence that this problem might be on the database layer. So now the next step is narrow down the problem. And there are some questions that you can ask yourself so that it can help you to narrow down the problem. Number one in here is there any relevant error message at the UI level? Maybe you are there in the Cloud Console and you're asking, looking at the, let's say, the database service, and you think that there's a problem in the database layer, but is there any error message at the UI level? If there is not, then is there any relevant error message at the log level? Because the logs are going to, give you more information. And then you keep ask these questions. Okay, I found the error. And then what does the error message say? Just the interpretation here. Okay, you need to look at the error message, and the error message is gonna tell you something. Okay, and then based on that, you're going to start investigating what are the possible causes of the error. And then if you look at the error message and you have no idea why you're getting this error message, then you can start using resources to help you to understand the possible causes of the error. And one of the possibilities is using the product documentation, using the Stack Overflow, and you can do all of that using Google, which is the biggest index in the world, to help you to get to the answer first. Okay, I'm going to give you some examples when we go to the hands-on part. And what are the known issues related to this error, for example, right? So maybe somebody else already had this issue, and then let me tell you something. Most of the times, the error message, the issues that you're going to see in the multi-cloud and DevOps spaces are going to be faced or have been faced by somebody else in the past. Okay? So most likely, you're going to see issues that somebody else has already seen before. And then you can leverage that to, increase your resolution time. And what are the possible solutions for this problem, right? When you start looking, at documentation, at, different resources, you're going to start, you're going to be very, very close to the solution. And then it's just a matter of start trying to see which one will fix the problem that you have. Okay? So now that you understood my onion method, I wanted to ask you, does that make sense to you? So let me know in the chat if that makes sense to you. Because now, what I want you to do is, I want to share the screen so that we can go to the console and do some hands-on stuff. Okay? But let me know if that makes sense to you. And also, if you're enjoying it so far, please give me a thumbs up. Like this video. Alright? So let's go to the console now so that we can do some troubleshooting exercise, and then I'm gonna try to show you everything now in a hands-on ways so that you see how you could use this method in the real world. Okay? So let me share my screen now. Okay. So now what I'm gonna do in here is I'm gonna show you a deployment process of an application in a Kubernetes cluster, okay? And for this example in here, I decided to do this in a Google Cloud, and then we're going to use the Google Kubernetes engine for that, okay? But what we're going to do in here would work really in any cloud provider, okay? If you wanted to do the same exercise in a managed Kubernetes service from a different cloud provider, it would work because the principles in here are going to be the same, okay? But here we are going to use the Google Kubernetes engine for this exercise. And then maybe you are in here thinking, hey John, but I have no idea what is Kubernetes, what it can do and things like that. No problem, okay? As I told you, we're gonna do the intensive cloud training in the upcoming days, okay? So all you need to do is sign up for that free training because I'm gonna teach you everything from scratch on this training, okay? Because here we don't have that time, but I'm gonna do my best to teach you everything that you can understand, okay? But coming back in here, what I'm gonna show you is in a very simple way, I'm going to show you a deployment process of an application in a Kubernetes cluster, and think of a Kubernetes cluster or Kubernetes just a way that you can deploy applications in the cloud. Okay? Just a place that you can go there and host your applications in the cloud. And by the way, companies are using Kubernetes to run their applications in multi-cloud environment, which basically means that running not only in one cloud provider, but running the applications in different cloud providers like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and even Oracle Cloud, okay, that now has a Kubernetes service as well. Okay, so that's a very popular technology that the companies are using right now to deploy their applications in the cloud in a very portable way. The focus in here is not going to be really explaining about the technology, but what I'm gonna show you is a troubleshooting steps when a issue happens when you're deploying a Kubernetes application or an application inside of a Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so that's what we would like to cover and focus in here. All right, and for doing this, we are here on the Google Cloud Console, as I told you, and then I have already created a Kubernetes cluster. I'm gonna show you because it takes some time. So let's go there and look at the Kubernetes engine. Here you go. We have a Kubernetes cluster in here, as I told you, and we also have a MySQL database that I have created in advance as well. So let me go there. We have a Cloud SQL database. It's basically a MySQL database here running on Google Cloud. And what we're going to do now is we're going to try to deploy a application inside of the Kubernetes cluster, okay? And what I created in here is I actually injected inside of this deployment process, okay, 2 errors, 2 issues so that we can figure out the solution for this, for those two issues together. Okay, that's exactly what we're going to do right now. Okay, so to get started, what we're going to do in here is we're going to go there in the Kubernetes cluster, and I'm going to go there on the Kubernetes engine. Okay, and as you can see, I have already a Kubernetes cluster created. Okay, but it is very easy to create one. You can just click in here in create, follow the steps, and it's going to be available for you. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to deploy a application inside of this cluster. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to use a Kubernetes configuration file to help us to deploy this application. Okay, and this application right now is actually inside of a Docker image, and then I wanted to show you where this image is located. Okay, so the Docker image is here inside of the container registry on Google Cloud. So if you see here, if we click on this one, you're going to see that we have a container image available in here inside of the container registry on Google Cloud. And then we're going to use this image to deploy the application inside of the Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so now let's go back to Kubernetes. And in order to basically deploy this application, what we're going to do first is we're going to connect to the Kubernetes cluster. So let's go there and connect to the cluster. Let's click on the cluster and then click on the connect button, as you can see. And then I'm going to basically copy this command in here. And this command will basically get the credentials that the Kubernetes needs to connect with the cluster. Okay. So as you can see here, I have the Google Cloud Shell already opened, but you can open that very easily. So let me close that so that you can see from scratch. So let's say that you wanted to connect your Kubernetes cluster now inside of Google Cloud. What you can do is you can come in here on this icon where it says activate Cloud Shell. Just click in there. And there you go. You're going to be inside of Cloud Shell. And then here, as I told you, I have a Kubernetes configuration file or deployment file already created so that I can use that to deploy my application on Kubernetes, right? If we open these files that you can take a look, when we open this file, you see that you're going to have all the configuration steps that the Kubernetes is going to use to deploy this application inside of Kubernetes, right? So basically, you're going to see that it's going to use the image path, which is going to be the path of the Docker container image that the Kubernetes is going to, pull in order to deploy the application inside of the cluster. Then you're going to have some configuration in here as well, showing you, some configuration like the DB hostname, DB user to connect to the MySQL database, some other configurations. And then finally, it's going to show you as well in which port the application is going to be exposed once it gets deployed. Okay, very simple. It's not the the intention of this live in here to go over all of that. Okay, but let's focus on the troubleshooting steps. So given that, what we're going to do now is let's go ahead and deploy this application inside of Kubernetes, okay? Inside of the cluster. So for doing this, we're going to use the command kubectl, okay? And of course, before doing this, we need to authenticate first. If you remember, we need to come in here and click in connect and copy this authentication command first, and then once you do this, you can come in here and paste the command. So let's see if we can do this now. There you go. And what's going to happen is Kubernetes is going to be authenticated so that we can use the kubectl command to deploy the application inside of the cluster. Okay, so as you can see now, I am authenticated inside of the cluster. So let's clear the screen for now. And the utility that you usually use to deploy applications or to even manage your Kubernetes cluster is a utility called kubectl. Okay, we're going to use the kubectl, and then you can run common commands like kubectl get pods, for example, to see if there is any application already created inside of the cluster, and then you see that there's nothing created at this time. Or you can even run kubectl get nodes so that you can see which are the nodes that are part of this cluster. But let's go ahead now and deploy the application. Kubectl apply -f for file, and then you're going to give the Kubernetes deployment file, which is our YAML file. Enter, and then you see that the application is going to start, is going to be actually deployed inside of the cluster. Okay, and it gives you a warning because as we're using the Google Cloud Kubernetes engine in an autopilot mode, the Kubernetes engine in an autopilot mode basically means that the cluster is not going to use any resource until the time that you go there and deploy a new application. Okay, so that's why it gives you a warning. That's normal. Okay, so let's go back to the cluster now, and if we click here in workloads, you see that the workload didn't work, right? The deployment process didn't work. So you see that there is a red flag in here saying that there is an issue, something is happening, and that is exactly what we're going to do now to troubleshoot and see where is the problem. Okay, if you look at the services and ingress, you see that the service inside of the Kubernetes that was just created is actually green. So it basically means that the network communication from the client to the application inside of the Kubernetes cluster is working fine, because Kubernetes was actually managed, was able to create the service to expose the application to the network. Okay, so there's no problem in here at this time. Okay, if we go back to workloads, we can see that there is a problem in here inside of the deployment. Okay, so basically the Kubernetes is trying to deploy a container inside of a pod, but it is not able to because some issue that is happening inside of the deployment process. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to start the troubleshooting process, right? Number one, understand the problem. So we understand now that the deployment process is not working, and we would like to now isolate the problem to start understanding more and finally narrowing down until we find the solution for the problem. Okay, and then basically when we start to isolate the problem, we need to start asking those key questions, right? Is it a database problem? Is it a network problem? I don't think that it is a database problem in here, because the error message says image pullback off. It's probably something to do with the Docker image that it is not working. We need to investigate. Is it a network communication problem? We don't know yet. We need to investigate, and we need to start asking those questions that I showed you until we can isolate the problem, right? And we can see here that it looks like to be a configuration problem, right? Because the error in here is showing that the image was not able to be pulled back. Okay, So what happens is when you deploy an application inside of Kubernetes, the process itself goes there and kind of pulls the image from the registry that I showed you, so that this image can be used to create a new container inside of the cluster. And looks like that the problem is right there. The cluster is trying to download the image, but it is not able to. So now let's start narrowing down the problem, right? So if you remember, what are the key questions that we need to start asking to narrow down the problem? So is there any relevant error message at the UI level? So yes, we do, right? So as you can see, there is an issue right here. So let's click on this one and see what it says. And it basically says that can't pull container images when starting the pods. So see, basically the Kubernetes was not able to pull the image when was starting the pods, right? With basically the smallest unit inside of the cluster. And because of that, the issue happened. And then when you do this in the Google Cloud, it is, so user-friendly that it starts giving you recommendations so that you can check the problem, the problems that usually happen, the common issues that usually happen when this error message happen, right? And then the first recommendation in here is check the image and their tags for typos. Okay, so let's do this now. So let's go ahead and take a look at the image to see if there is any typo, any issue inside of the image. Okay, so let's go back to our console now. So let's just maximize in here. Okay, and what we're going to do is let's clear the screen. We're going to use the command kubectl describe pods. Okay, so this command in here is going to help us to see what is the image path that we have used to deploy this application. So hit enter. And then here on the bottom, you see that the error message is also showing up. So this is the way that you can check for error messages at the console level as well. You can do this from the console, from the UI, but you can also do from the command line. You see that the same error message is happening here as well. Error while trying to pull the image and things like that. See, those are the error messages. And now let's scroll up and take a look at the image path. Okay, so here is the container image path. It is inside of the Google Container Registry, as I showed you, inside of this project. And this is the path of the image. So now let's open the container registry and compare to see if there is any difference. So let's go there on the container registry. And let's go inside of the image. And as you can see here, so let's see if there is any typo in here. We have the gcr.io, it's matching. Then we have the project name, it's matching, right? Then we have the image name. So let's see, Luxi COVID testing, Lux COVID testing, sys. Oops, there is something missing here. See, it is actually written as sys, syste, but it is actually missing the M. So that is the problem. It is actually a typo that happening here that is actually preventing the application to come up. Okay. So in this case, what's going to happen is Kubernetes is not able to locate this image because of a typo. Okay. So we basically managed to narrow down the problem now. And now we know what is the solution to fix a problem. So basically what we need to do here is fix the image path so that the application can come up, right? And for doing this, we're going to use a kubectl command for fixing that. Okay, so let's go there. Let's just clear the screen. Let's maximize this one in here. Okay, and we're gonna use the command kubectl, and let's see what is the name of the deployment first. Get deployment. Okay, and then you're gonna use the kubectl set image deployment. Then we're gonna give the name of the deployment that we would like to fix. So let me copy this again. Let's go. Let's just paste this. There we go. And then we're gonna give the right path that we would like to fix. Okay, I'm gonna copy this to make sure that there is no mistake. Okay, so see now that the path has a system in it, the M is in there, and we can just hit enter. All right, so as you can see, the image has been updated. So now if we run get deployment, it is going to be updated. And if we run kubectl describe pods, then now looking at the logs in the history here, you see that the image has been updated to the correct path. So you see that the M is in there, and it was able to pull the image, and it was, finally able to pull the image and create the container, right? So it basically means that this problem seems to be fixed. So let's take a look now. Come back in here in the Kubernetes console. All right, so let's take a look. Let's go there on Kubernetes. Okay, and let's inside of the cluster, click in workloads, and then now it shows green. Okay, so let's go there and try to access the application services and egress. Let's click on the endpoint, and if everything worked correctly, you should be able to see the application. Okay, so basically we were able to fix the problem number one, right? But as I told you, I brought in here two different problems so that we can see when the issue is not very clear as this one was, right? So let's try now. So as you can see, the application is up and running, okay? And what happens is this application is also connected with a database, okay? But in order for this application to come up, this main screen here does not need to access a database at all, okay? So now let's try to view the guest results, okay? Which show some registry inside of the database. And by the way, this is the application that we're going to use on the free intensive cloud training that I told you. I'm going to share a little bit more in the end so that you can understand. But let's try now to view the guest results to see if we're able to fetch the registries inside of the database. And error. There is an error that just shows immediately, and it basically means that something else is still going on inside of this deployment. So let's go back now to the UI and see if everything is okay, if there is anything red, and then let's refresh. And you see that the load balancer, the services is good. Let's go to the workload. Let's refresh. Let's see if something is red, and it is not, it is green. So now what happens is this issue that is happening is not giving us a indicator of problem inside of the UI, right? Do you agree with that? There's no error in here in the UI at this time. So what we need to do now is we need to come back to the narrow down key questions and start asking until we figure out the problem. So is there any relevant error message at UI level? And the answer is no, okay? besides the internal error that we saw in the UI, when we try to access the application, there's nothing else that we can look at the UI at this time. Now, is there any relevant error message at log level? We don't know yet. So let's see if there is any log, any message inside of the log. So let's go back now and start our troubleshooting exercise again. Okay. So in that case, if you look at this error, basically means that the application is up and running inside of a container on Kubernetes, but there is still something going on inside of the application, inside of the container, that we don't know, that we need to investigate, right? And that's exactly what we need to do now, okay? So let's go back to the console. Let's maximize this one in here, okay? If we try to run the kubectl describe pods again, you see that there's no error reported in here at the pods level, okay? But let's take a look now inside of the container level, okay? Let's say that we would like to see the logs inside of the container level because something is happening inside of the application and we need to figure out what it is. So let's go there now inside of the container, and for that, so let's run the kubectl get pods so that we can see which are the pods that are running right now. And you see that there is a pod running at this time, okay? So let's now run the kubectl logs, and let's get the logs from inside of this container to see if it can give us any clue, okay? So let me copy the pod name again. Okay. So let me copy again. There we go. Logs and then the pod name. Hit enter. And you see that it throws the errors that are happening inside of the container right away. Right? So you see that when we run the kubectl logs, what's happening is the Kubernetes is going in there and showing me the logs of the application so that I can start investigating and checking where is the problem. Okay, so you see that the log starts showing that the application came up, and immediately you see that there is an exception that is raised when we try to access this application route to reach the database registries, right? So let's keep scrolling down to see if we can find a problem. There is just errors, generic errors, okay? And oops, there's something in here. There's something in here that I think that can help us. See, it says that there is a MySQL error which is reporting a unknown database. DB COVID testing unknown database. So looks like it is something, it is some configuration issue with the database that the application is trying to connect, right? So let's take a look now at the database and see if everything is good. So let's come in here on Google Cloud, search for Cloud SQL. And let's go. And it looks like that the database is running. There's no problem at this time. But let's take a look at the database in here to see if the database is matching to what we are seeing in the log. So looks like we have the DB COVID testing here, and the application is complaining that cannot find the DB COVID testing, and looks like it is missing a G at the end of the database name. You see that? So here is DB COVID testing, and here is DB COVID testing without the G. So I think that this is this might be the problem that we're facing at this time. Okay, so in that case, what we need to do is let's start narrowing down the problem once again so that we can see if our assumption is true. So let's take a look inside of the configuration of the deployment to see if the database name is really wrong or not. Let's run the kubectl, and let's now run can describe the pods in here to see the full configuration, okay? And then also we scroll up, you see that there are some environment variables in here that set, the configurations for the database layer. You see here that DB hostname is pointing to the IP address, DB user, username, password, and DB name, and there you go. The DB COVID testing, the DB name in here is actually wrong. So that's why the application is not able to connect. That's why the application is not able to connect with the database, right? So that is where the problem is. So we managed to narrow down the problem. So now the next step is we need to fix the problem. And how do we update a environment variable inside of Kubernetes? Okay, we're going to use a kubectl setenv for environment command to fix this problem. We're going to fix a problem at the deployment level. We're going to give the deployment name, which is Luxy COVID testing system. And then we're going to give the correct DB name, which is the name of the environment variable. DB name equals to DB COVID testing. Okay, so again, kubectl set env deployment, the name of the deployment, and then the environment variable equals to the value that you want to put on this variable. Hit enter, and the environment has been updated, as you can see. So now let's run the scribe again. So you see that now the DB name has been updated, and now you can see that the pod in here is running. Okay, so looks like that everything is good now. So again, DB name is showing correct. So now let's see if the application is going to work. So let's just refresh, and there you go. Now the application is able to connect with the database because the configuration is correct, and we can fetch the records from the database, right? We finally managed to get to the final step, which is fixing the problem, right? So again, as you could see, so let me go back in here so that you can see what we did, right? We basically followed the onion method, and then we finally got to the fixed problem, okay? So again, if you follow those steps, what's going to happen is you're going to get to the solution, and you're going to feel very, very happy when you solve a problem, okay? So to summarize in here, guys, please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this troubleshooting exercise, this troubleshooting challenge. If you enjoyed that, give me some feedback so that I can see that we should create more content like this. And to summarize is, number one, don't be afraid of problems, okay? Learn how to solve them properly with a method. Just follow this method. You can fix any problem at all. And again, if you're not able to solve complex problems in the multi-cloud and DevOps space, you will never be highly paid in this industry. And I'm sure that you want to be among the best and highest paid. So you need to, not only develop your multi-cloud and DevOps skill sets, but also you need to develop your troubleshooting skills, okay? Because at the end of the day, the IT professionals that are highly paid and considered the best are the problem solvers, okay? So keep that in mind. And if you enjoyed this content, please give me a thumbs up once again. And if you wanted to learn more about all of that we did, okay, as I told you, we're gonna have a free intensive cloud training, okay? And then on this training, I'm gonna, teach you more about Kubernetes from scratch so that you can understand. I'm gonna teach you more about Docker. I'm gonna teach you about more Google Cloud, more about AWS, MultiCloud. So that is your opportunity to learn multi-cloud and DevOps and be among the best in high paid, okay? So go ahead and sign up for this free training, and I hope to see you in there. And for now, I just wanted to thank you so much for being here. Hope you have enjoyed it. Please give me your thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, give me your feedback if you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in our next live streaming here in our channel. Okay? So thank you so much for being here, guys. See you in the next time. Bye-bye.